Bonus points if you can figure out where that came from. That is a request from a patron. If you donate a certain amount, I will say a word for you or a phrase or something. So comment down below if you know where that is from. So today I want to show you a little bit about Renoise because it forces you to look at different ways of writing music. Some of you guys look at this and you say, oh my gosh, what's going on here? First off, I have most of the menus open, but I find them all open to be very useful. Like to have them closed makes little sense. So I'm going to just present it to you the way it looks. And so when you open up Renoise, is what you get. Renoise is a tracker, and the reason I'm showing you this is because the patron, this is the first one who's actually like qualified for a reward. So I feel a little, that's like a special occasion, right? The first one. So this is a video to them because their favorite artist, which is linked down in the description below, is this sort of breakcore artist, very experimental. They have elements of all sorts of just ideas in their music. And this person really enjoys that style of music. And so a very common way to write that style of music is through a tracker. Trackers are very popular for the production of breakcore. They're also very popular for the production of chiptunes. So today I just want to compose a little bit in here, and I'll explain a little bit about what I'm doing. We're just going to get a little loop session going and showing you how this sort of changes your workflow. I'm not going to explain all the details of what I'm doing because I could get quite bogged down in explaining basics, and I plan to do a basic series for this because with the idea of presenting how to write a song with it, because there's a lot of basic videos out there that are extremely good, especially the official Renoise videos for understanding how things work specifically, and they have a good manual. I've had every now and then, I don't know. The manuals for DAWs are always just a little strange to me. Compared to like native instrument manuals, which make a lot more sense. But basically, I'm gonna compose, and then I'm gonna do a basic series later. But I'll drop down keyboard shortcuts and stuff. I wish people had told me, just so you could see it. Now, the way this works is we have these instruction lines here, and we could tell it to read sets of instructions at a rate. So we could say, hey, read 4 instructions in 1 beat, and that's what we have here, lines per beat. So it's reading 4. You could decrease this number to increase resolution. So we go like 8. So now my resolution is at 32nd notes. If I decrease it back to 4, now it's at 16th notes. So that's the highest. So these up to here is 1 beat, and then here's beat 2, beat 3, and beat 4. And this is our next measure, beat line 16. So this forces you to think about, I think the results of using this are increased music theory abilities by like a lot if you're writing chiptune and you're really considering theory and melodic composition. And also better songwriting. I noticed that the way it forces you to think about structure is just better. You also think about the role of sound in a different way than you would in like Ableton or FL, because it's not really encouraging you to use plugins as your generators. At least that's what I feel like. That it's way more convenient to use samples because then you get access to the commands that come along. So the way they deal with how commands are given in automation is a very unique approach, one that's very cool. So let's go ahead and just start working. So I'm going to load up a chiptune Sawtooth. This is going to be my ARP. I'm going to write an ARP. And so I'm going to name this one chip ARP. I'll just name it ARP. And I'm going to alt click up here, and that changes my keyboard focus. So I can right click and hit Control R and name this one ARP. You have to alt-click if you want to change your focus to an area. So they do that because it's somewhat unintuitive to have it just shifting around everywhere you go. So I have my ARP loaded up, and I'm going to, So it's at C1, and I don't want that. That's way too low. If I hit a note, that's like way low. So I'm going to hit F3. It's going to take me to my sampler tab, waveform tab, and I'm going to put in a transpose. I'm going to transpose it up 36. So it's now 36, been transposed up by 36. And that's what's going on there. So I'm going to hit F1, and I am back at my window, and I say, okay, cool. Now I want to enter in some notes, the moment we've all waited for, right? So the way this works is I hit escape. It puts me in edit mode, and this red line appears. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put down a note, and then I'm going to put down another note. And right now, there's no off command. So it will continue to play. And unless I give it an off command. So this is going to be my ARP. I want it to be like, let's let's do a C minor. Let's work in C minor. So I'm going to do C. I'm going to go to A flat, which is G sharp. And then I'm going to go to a, let's see here. And A. Let's do A flat. And then let's go to G. Let's go to G and then F. And there are better ways of moving around. For example, I can hit page up and page down, scroll me around by 16th notes. So okay, we have our ARP, and right now it's basically playing it for half notes. So because this is a beat, 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 beat. So this is like 2 beats in between. So that's what's going on there. And so if I play it, and I wanted to have a cooler rhythm, and the way it used to be was you didn't have enough channels of information, so you couldn't write out chords. You only had so many notes you could use. So what they would do is they'd make one note play the chord really quickly and thus save memory, but still get their chord in, so they could have things like bass and drums in a lead. So for C4, I'm going to put down an A. This stands for arpeggiation, and it's going to divvy up my ticks. So every line gets 12 ticks. If you go into your song and then song options, we see we have ticks per line. There are 12. And so first it's going to play C, and then this arpeggiator is going to offset it by 2 other notes. And it's easier to just show you. First I'm going to put a note off command, so I get this. So that's what I currently have. Now I'm going to put down A. So it's playing A, and a really quick side note, this is using hexadecimal. So it goes from 0 to 16 with one bit, one value. So if I have, let's say, not 1 bit, I don't even know what I mean by that. But, you have 1 digit. And so in decimal, you have 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So you have 10 possible values, right? Because you go 0 to 9. And hexadecimal, you go 0 to F. This gives you 16. It counts like this. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, A, B, C, D, E, F. And if you wanted to count to like 11 per se, in hexadecimal, you wouldn't need to worry. You go 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, A, B. B would be 11. So if we wanted to count to 22, it's a little bit different, right? So in decimal, we'd go 21, 22, right? We'd roll over. Well, if we want to roll over in hex, you'd go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, A, B, C, D, E, F, 1, 2, 3, 4, and we keep going, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 1A, 1B, 1C, 1D, 1E, 1F. And this gives us over 200 values, like 254 or something like that. A whole bunch of values, a much higher resolution for just 2 bits. Where in decimal, you only get 99. In hexadecimal, you get over twice that. So it's really good. This is cool because that means that since 1 bit can represent up to 16 things, well, without the case of 0, 15 things, that would mean that we can represent offsets over an octave big. And so I say, okay, C, I want to play, let's do C, a minor chord. So I'm going to put a 3. So it's going to play C, and then it's going to play 3 notes away from C, which would be an E flat, and then 7 notes, which would be a perfect 5th. And it will sound like this. And it's offsetting it according to the ticks. Now I'm gonna select everything because that's kind of low. I'm going to make this an octave higher. And you can raise or lower your keyboard's octave settings by hitting divide or multiply on your keyboard. Multiply. So there you go. I increased my keyboard's octave. And cool, that's what I have. So I'm going to hold down shift and hit end. It's going to select everything. And then I'm going to come over here to this column. And if it's not open, that's how you open it. I'm going to hit +12. And that just moved everything up an octave. So that does it all at once. So end and home will scroll you to the beginning or ending of your pattern. Cool. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a cool rhythm out of this. So if you hold shift and push over, it will highlight the line you're on. And then if you hit down, it will scroll it down. So I'm going to do like this. And let's see. Let's do that. Now, right now I have this. And I'm going to get rid of the ARP here. And I'm going to make this an octave lower. And you see that without the note off command, it just turns off. And when the arpeggiator is on, but the note continues, if the ARP doesn't continue, it will return to a regular note because it's divvying up the ticks per line. So it's a per line command. So I'm going to put an off here, and to put an off, you hit A. That's A on your keyboard. We'll put an off command there. Let's see how that goes. And then let's do a major chord. So the code for that will be, we want 4 half steps and 7 half steps. So this is a major third and a perfect fifth. And let's put an off command here. Control C, Control V, Control V. Whoops. A little too crazy there. And okay, and I want this one to be a octave lower. And get rid of that. Okay, so now we have this. And okay. We're getting some kind of cool. Put an off here. And we'll also make this, this is going to be a minor chord. So we'll put a 3-7 because we already know the code now. And I'm going to hit shift over to select it. Shift down to select the off. Hit Control C, Control V, Control V, Control V. Get rid of that. I'm going to hit divide to go down an octave. I'm going to actually go up. Okay, cool. And we get that. I'm going to put an off command here and here as well. And now if I want to play, so I've been hitting spacebar. It always starts you at the beginning. If I hit shift spacebar, it'll start me where my cursor is currently at. And so this is also going to be minor, right? Now, if I want to select just the notes in one column or just one column of information, I hit Shift Alt and hit over. And you see it just selected just this. So it left the note out. So I can select just the effect command, which is in this effect column. These are the note columns. And I'm going to lay that down. I'm going to put down an A. And so you can see if you want to do inversions, you'd have to come in here and... I keep forgetting I'm already at the correct octave. You'd have to come in here and write out the theory. So I believe it's like for the first versions like A4. I can't remember right now. But anyways, oops, I have a Command S habit. So I'm going to hit a home and let's listen. And so let's just run with that for now. So we're just going to go home and then hit page down to move in sets of 16 and Control V. And I Controlled C that selection. So I hit Shift Home and did all this. It begins to become pretty rapid. So, okay, we're going to hit home and that's our loop right now. So let's change this to an inversion, right? So we have G. We know that B flat would work, right? So we'll put a B flat. And here. And we'll change the code, right? So B flat. So we need to go from B flat to a D, which would be 1, 2, 3, 4. So we're going to put 4 here. And we're going to put an A for a 10th away. And that's because from B flat to G is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. It's a 9th away. We're going to put a 9. Okay, so Control C, and we will replace these values. And this one should still be a G. I don't know why I changed that. And these ones should be an octave up. Okay, cool. We'll hit page up. And then this one, F, so we'll put a C. And that is the... Oh, we'll put an A, actually. Because I want the third. That way I don't need to think of any more theory at the moment. So we'll put 4 and then 9. And so that'll sound cool. That's an inversion of just the F chord. Okay, cool. You know that, whatever. We'll rock that. Okay, so now let's go ahead and add in a kick drum. So for now, what we've been doing is there's this 0, 0 next to all our notes. So we see these are our notes. And so that's calling our first sample. We're going to load up another sample for it to call. And you can load up plugs and stuff here too. So I'm going to hit Alt down and it will select the next sample instrument. Because I don't want it to put a kick here. Because then all these notes will start calling that kick drum. That would be bad. So, okay. So I'm going to make this track my kick. these tracks sort of have some special properties. I'm not going to jump into like all the amazing differences that happen here, because this one took me a while to wrap my head around what was going on here. It's pretty simple. I just didn't have someone to explain it to me. So we're going to go to other, and you can save locations on your drive. So if I hit my one, it'll take me to where all my sample libraries are. I have like a folder for that. And then I really enjoy the Black Octopus Wicked Drum Hits sounds. I think they're amazing for this sort of chiptune style thing. I really enjoy them. So I'm going to go to kicks sharp. They're just basically really short kicks. And really find one I like, and we'll just run with that for now. So we'll hit Alt click, and then we'll hit Control R, and we'll name it kick. So I just want to do that before I forget. And Alt click to change your keyboard focus back to here. And so now I'm going to lay down a kick, and then I'm going to, let's load up a snare too. So let's come in here and find our snare drums. And I'm already on sample 2. So sure, let's go with that. Okay, cool. So I'm going to make this one my snare. And what's going to happen is I can hit tab to switch between my columns and shift tab to go back. So tab, shift tab. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure I'm on C4, because that'll play back the sample correctly. And I'm going to use Alt up down, and you see it switches my my kick with my snare. I'm able to change what instrument I'm currently calling. So I could have my kick and snare be called on the kick channel alone. So I'd have like kick, snare, but then there's no point where they can overlap. Typically isn't a problem, but I'm going to do them separately so I can do my processing separately later on, should I desire. So I'm going to call my kick. And so there's my kick. And then I'm going to hit tab, and then I'm going to push Alt down, select my snare, and put my snare. And then I find that pushing back can is almost quicker sometimes. But now I'm going to hit Alt up to select my kick. And I'm going to put a kick here and then a snare here. And now if I hit play. So you see that's pretty cool. And let's change our BPM up. Let's go to like 150-45. So that's pretty cool. I'm going to hold down shift and hit whoops. What's going on? Cool. Control C. And let's say I want to do a roll, like I want to do. So I'm going to put another kick here, and then I want a delay. So these right now, this is my volume column. It's this one down here. It says volume, so I see I can get rid of it or not. I want a delay column. So I want this note to be delayed, and in hexadecimal, halfway is 80. So I'm going to put an 8. I'm just going to ignore all the extra details right now and just say halfway is 80. Check it out. It'll go do. Okay. It was a little... It's Control X, of course, for cut. Let's do something like this. So I'm going to hit Shift Spacebar to start where I'm at. That's pretty cool. It wasn't quite a do, but you get the idea. So let's go ahead and select this, and then we'll come down and we'll paste it again. And it repeats. This might be a little old the second go around, so perhaps I'll do this. And one thing that's kind of cool is change the pitch up a little bit, and that can be a nifty move. So at home. So you see do, like it creates a different sort of feel. So now I want a hi-hat. You can load up a hi-hat, but I'm gonna do something sort of cool. So I'm gonna select my snare, and I'm gonna duplicate it by hitting Control D, and I'm gonna hit Control R and name this my hat. You might be going, what the heck? But that was a snare. So we're gonna hit F3. We're gonna select a selection of noise from the end of our snare sound. Hit Control X to cut it and save it to your whatever, that background thing on your clipboard. That's what it is, your computer's clipboard. Hit delete, and then hit Control V, and there is the noise from our snare drum. I know I'm going a little fast, but I want to get this video. I'm just showing you some ways of working. So we have, okay, there we have our hat, and we're going to put down our hat on track 4, right? And I'm going to make sure I have my hat selected. I'm going to hit, it decided to rename itself again. I can't remember if I renamed it or not, but I'm going to name it now. So it's our hat. This will be our hat channel. And what we're going to do is I want to hat every other line. So basically eighth notes. So to do that, I'm going to change it so that every time I hit a key, it's going to skip a line. So I'm going to hit Control 1. And so now, actually, I'm going to hit Control 2. Right? Yeah. So I hit a note, it's going to skip this line and go to the next line. And that's what this setting does down here. So if I want to skip 4 lines, I put 4. If I want to skip 8, I put 8. I want to skip 2. And the shortcut is Control 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever it is you want to do. So, okay, I'm going to go ahead and enter those in. I am an octave too low, so I'm going to hit multiply on my keyboard to bring it up an octave. There you go. That's pretty cool. I like that. So, bang, there it is. That's the magic of having this correctly done. Now we have this. Now let's say I want the volume to decrease and increase. I'm not going to get into the hexadecimal of this thing, but I'm going to start at a value of 80. And then over the course of 2 beats, I want it to go down to a volume of 40. Then over the course of another 2 beats, I want it to increase back up to the value of 80. And instead of writing in all the middle values for a hex, I'm going to select the column by hitting Shift-Alt, and see it selects just that column, and hit Control-I to interpolate between these 2 values. Then I'm going to hit Shift-Alt again, and select the next 2 columns and hit Control-I, and Control-I will select those values again. So now I'm going to hit Shift-Alt-Home. It's going to select those. I'm going to hit Control-C, page down, Control-V, page down, Control-V, page down, Control-V, and now all of my values have been put in. And if we listen to just the hat, I'm going to switch over to my waveform view up here, and I'm going to right-click to solo the hat. We will notice that it will get softer and louder over time because this is the volume. This column controls the volume. It's shown down here. They include some of these just because they're such commonly called upon that they just do. So you see they get softer and louder. Adds a little bit more dynamics. You can also add humanization, delays and stuff. We're not going to worry about that right now. So, okay, so if I right-click, here's what we got. Let's say that, I'll deal with, we're not going to get into the details, but I can mess with panning. So now let's say that I want a lead. I find this to work pretty well. So I'm going to go to my samples. I'm going to select a new instrument by hitting Alt down so I don't overwrite any of my other stuff. I'm going to load up a sawtooth in there. I'm going to hit F3 because it's too low, because it's at C1. That's way too low. I'm going to pitch it up to 36. Sounds like this. What I'm going to do is, you have 2 types of processing. You have track processing, and then you have, this blew my mind at first. Like, it was like totally weird. But basically, if I were to send this ARP through track 5, and if I put different effects on track 5, which you can't see because I'm over it, but you see there's these effects. Sorry, there's these effects right here. I'm just going to ignore that right now. I'm not sure if that popped up, but if my image didn't move, there's a little effect box behind my image, and I can type in things to get different effects. When I do the beginner series, I may just not be in the picture. So what it is I can have, or I'll put myself in the other corner and get rid of the oscilloscope or move it over or something. But basically, if I had this ARP going through track 5 and then at track 1, if track 1 had different effects in track 5, they would actually get cloned and they would be processed differently. So very cool. But I like to have separate assigned samples just to keep things like a little more straightforward. I'm going to put in a distortion on it, and whoops, I'm going to use the native distortion, and you can see that. And I'm going to put it on Razor and turn the drive up. I'm going to exit edit mode real quick. So you'd see it turns it into like a buzzy square wave. I'm going to turn on oversampling, which I'm like, oversampling. And then tone. Now I'm going to pitch it up an octave. No, I'll leave it down. And then I'm going to also add an MP reverb, which is a native reverb. I like it quite a bit. So, okay, cool. So what I want to do now is I want to add a melody. And so to do a melody, I am working with C minor first. So first I'll add a C. I'm going to enter edit mode, put down a C, and then I'm going to put down a command, the up command. I'm going to hit Control 1 to change my grid editing. So now when I hit, it'll move me down to the next line. And you see there's a 1 down here now. So I'm going to hit U. And I want it to pitch up by a value of, I believe that's a quarter of a tone. So it will begin to pitch up like so. So you see it's a ooh instead of a do. It's just a subtle thing. And then I'm going to put down a D sharp, so an E flat, and then a. So I'm moving my way up to a G. Whoops. I'm going to go D off, which you put an off by hitting A on your keyboard. And then I'm going to put a G sharp. And let's put a passing tone or something in between. So a G. And then we're going to put down, I'm going to ignore glide commands for now. So I'm going to put down, this time we're going to move down in essentially this is going to be 3 notes down because this is 1 note, because this is a whole semitone, I believe. Anyways, the pitch is going to go down. If I don't want it to go down as much, I'll put a smaller number there. So I'm going to go down to an F. And then I'm going to put a C. Actually, I want to go to the nearest value. So I'm going to put a G. And I'll put an off note there just in case. Whoops. Okay, so do. And then at the very end, I'm going to put a vibrato. So we're going to put a V for vibrato. And the first value represents the speed of the vibrato. And the speed I want to be A, which is basically 10. And then the 0 is the depth of the vibrato. I'm going to make that 4. So not a super deep one. And then if I continue to put V's, it will hold the vibrato out, but it will repeat. It will keep the same values. It will repeat the values. So check it out. And I'm going to go ahead and make some adjustments here. And we'll put a glide down 1. Don't worry about the glide, but check it out. So see, we got a melody, we got a little background thing, we got a little arp. I mean, we're going places. This may be a little over your head just because you're new, but that's fine. You'll accumulate more and more knowledge. But let's say now we want to add a bass. Well, for the bass, I think it'd be cool so I'm going to a new instrument, and I'm going to load up a square wave. And I'm just going to do a pulsing bass to keep it very simple. So my square wave is still too low. If I play it, it sounds like this. Actually, that's not too low. That sounds fine. So let's go ahead and just run with that. So I'm going to put down a C. And then we'll go to a G sharp, G, F, whoops. And then I'm going to hit Shift Home, Control C, page down, Control V. And then we can go to our mix page and go ahead and make some adjustments. Now, I haven't done any equalization or processing, and you want to be careful here. So you can add processing here, but it's track specific, right? If I want to affect the sample at the root of the sample, if this sample has a specific job, like the ARP sample is going to be used just for ARPs. So if I want to affect my ARP ahead of time, this is a workflow thing. There's lots of workflows with this there's a ton of workflows now available, this method. But I can come in here, go to effects, and I can create an effect chain and affect them at the sample level, or I could come to the mix tab and affect them on a track level. It's like you have a generator, like a synthesizer in your if you're used to working in another program, and then you choose to use effects inside the synthesizer. So it happens at the synth. Your mixer channel is a different story, and you can route it to multiple mixer channels by multing the output. So yeah, there's just more ways to process things. So I could add in equalizers and stuff and distortion and begin to change my levels and all mumbo jumbo. We also notice here that I have a pattern editor. So maybe I want to have this thing open up. So if this isn't here, you have this. You hit this little PA, whatever this PM, whatever that stands for, show hide, and it opens up the pattern matrix. And you can add patterns by hitting plus. And what we could do is, like, let's say that I want this to, let's say I want these things. So these are my, you see they're named according to our track. So we have our kick, snare, hat. Those are these patterns. So I'm going to hit Control X, and I'm going to move them down to Control V to pattern 2. And let's say that we want, whoops, didn't want to do that. Let's say we want this guy. This is going to be our song. And we can even add a title like intro. And then at pattern 2, we want to add another title, and we'll put this like jam. And let's say that we want to automate a filter on over the first 2 patterns. What we can do is we can go to ARP1, and we could put a filter. So I'm going to use the analog filter. You just type it in. Whoops, that's the comb filter. Let's get rid of that. And okay, so to automate something, all you got to do is click on these little boxes next to it. Let me make sure you can see that. And so I'm going to automate the cutoff, and it brings up this dialog here. And let me go to just screen. If it will pull up, there we go. Okay, cool. So we have this little dialog box here, and down here we can see it actually marks where our patterns are. So we have pattern 2, yada, yada, yada. So we want to go to pattern 1, and there's pattern 1. And if you simply click, it's now, we can see under analog filter, it's now automating the cutoff. And so I'm going to move the cutoff here. Now you can go across patterns like so, and you can hold down your mouse wheel and scroll, and it will scroll you in and out where your cursor is. So I want to go all the way up so that by pattern 2, our filter is on and we are jiving. So you can switch between the 2 views by clicking this little icon here. So if we hit here, it'll take us back to our processing. So now if we play it at the beginning, you see our filter is going to turn on over time. And we get this. Oh, that brings up a good point. There's no note off command there. So you'll find yourself as you work, you'll be like, oh, I want a note off command there. What track has the melody? It's got to be track 5. So I'll put an A there. This is where you hit Control S, and I've actually started numbering them because I work on my laptop too. So I'm actually, this is number 22. We'll just put fun tutorial. But anyways, that is some of the details here. Let me switch back to the tutorial setup here. Okay. So that is some of the details of working in Renoise, working with a tracker, some of the ways and ideas of just doing things. If there's a keyboard shortcut that you think I did, and you want to know what it was, go ahead and just ask. But I plan to do some series on this because it's super cool and fun to work with. As you can see, you can pump out something pretty quick, and they have all the tools. It's just there's a lot of sort of small details, and I can already see so many other potential possibilities. One thing I didn't touch on that I'll really quick show you is let's open up a couple new patterns, and I'm going to load up on pattern 7, just a sample. So I'm going to go to, I want to show you something. So we can load up a sample like this one. Whoops. And so this is very, very, very powerful. But what I can do is I could say, okay, here's my sample. If I go to F3. Cool, right? And so that's just a sample that I have. Then what we're going to do is we're going to go to F1. We're going to put it in. And I'm able to, if I put it in repeatedly, I'm able to take it and put in a slice offset. So what it's going to do, I believe this stands for slice. But what it does is I can put in values here to call up different parts of the sample. And so if I hit F3, I can change my grid to show me samples or OS effect. And so this shows me that, oh, if I put in a value of 80, it's going to start the sample here. And this can be really, really cool depending on your tempo and whatnot. But I can basically say, okay, start at 0 and end at C0. And then I want it to interpolate these values. So I control I to interpolate. Now, so you see it's got sort of a, let's go ahead. Let me show you in a little more extreme of a setting. So I'm going to hit control, what is it? K, whoops, control P. There it is. So that's not it. I don't remember. There's a continuously pace where it'll fill it up, but I can't remember right now. So I'm just going to do it the old fashioned way and hit like this. Control C, control V, page down, page down. There we go. It's there. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to make this S0 and I'm going to make this. What does it do it for me? I don't know. I'm going to make sure just to be safe. Okay. So if you look at our sampler, it's moving through there ever so slowly. So if I were to increase my tempo to like something stupidly high. So you see that's, yeah. So whoops. Let's do And so if we were to change our lines per beat and do things of that nature, we'll get something really cool. Another thing you can do is you can use this to trigger back all sorts of stutter effects. So if we were to go like, let's say that we made this S5-4. That's what we wanted, right? And we're going to do that for a little while. Let's do it this many times. And then let's say that this next one, we want this to be S70. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. So put that down. You get really wonky rhythms and do all sorts of weird stuff. And that's at a slower tempo if we sped it up. So just, I wanted to show you that this is like a whole nother topic and it becomes very, very powerful. I've been focusing on making chiptunes. So this isn't like my primary concern right now. I want to make cool old school video game music. But if you have any questions, let me know. Subscribe. Thank you to be my first patron that qualified for something. That's super cool. I thank you. And have a blessed day.